So we are live now.
Okay. Hello everyone. क्या आप भी ऑप्शंस क्रिएट करते हो? फिर तो आपको पता ही होगा कि Hello everyone. My name is Priyanka Benlekhi and I'm an alum of IIM Calcutta. I have worked with Coke and currently a consultant with Deloitte. But apart from that, I am a part of MBA Litmus's Launchpad program. And from that standpoint, we'll be trying to understand what exactly marketing is. Obviously, we won't be able to cover a lot of it because marketing is like an ocean of it. And maybe we'll just try to, understand a bit of it and we'll understand how marketing really works in today's generation, right? So just let me know in the chats if possible. um, when was the last time and what was that one thing that you bought recently, which did not really uh, make sense, but then it was only because it was Starbucks, or maybe it was skincare, or maybe it was Labubu, or for example, sneakers or perfume, anything which looked absolutely aesthetic, and that is only why you bought it. Can I have some answers in the chat? Okay. So, in case you have bought something called Labubu, if you're aware about that, or maybe if you have bought something which is a Stanley Cup, or if you have bought any sneaker because it was there everywhere in your Instagram reels and everywhere in your ads, YouTube ads, and all of that sort, then trust me, you have already experienced marketing. Now, what exactly is marketing, right? Marketing is literally everywhere in our lives, from what we need to what we want versus what we demand. And everything that comes around that exactly is marketing. Now, how do brands even, consider or target our audiences depends a lot on the GTM strategy. And that is exactly what we are going to understand from the surface level view about what exactly is GTM strategy and how can we actually build upon it, and how GTM strategy is the key parameter to if a brand is working, is winning in the market, or is actually going flop, right? We will try to understand why Starbucks is Starbucks today, why Labubu became Labubu, why Boat has such a big name today, and all of it, why Kusha Kapila's underneath is actually working in the market today, right? So now, but if consumers, obviously you and me, we might be of the same age, but then we might have absolutely different lifestyle, we might have absolutely different expectations from the brand of the same category, right? And this is where the question comes, that if consumers are this different emotionally, and if even psychologically, they kind of get triggered in very different parameters, then how do brands actually decide who do we even want to talk to? For example, Zomato, I think you all are aware, do you get those notifications, those nudges that, hey, are you trying to fight the Monday blues, maybe just order a blueberry cheesecake sort of notifications? Let me know in the chat if that is what you do, like if you have ever received those kind of notifications from Zomato. I'm sure you have, but just give me a quick heads up. Have you? I'll be waiting. No? Yeah? Okay. So this was the funniest one that I have received last Monday, wherein Zomato came and gave a notification to me that, hey, are you trying to fight Monday blues? Maybe order a blueberry cheesecake, right? We can't really solve the Monday blues for you, but then we can definitely ease it for you, right? So what is the brand in general trying to do here? The brand is actually trying to set up a connection and interaction, is trying to communicate with its target audience, right? So that is exactly what brands are trying to do. Brands are trying to communicate, they are trying to make things relatable to you so that you find it, you know you're not just buying a product as a consumer, but rather you are buying the emotions, the psychological triggers that are attached to it, the identity. Sometimes you're not really buying a product, but then the identity that you're mirroring through that product, the status that is coming. Why are you using an iPhone if you're using one, right? Why are you choosing Zomato over Swiggy? Why are you choosing Blinkit over Zepto, or vice versa? Why are you even choosing both over other electronic brands, right? So this is something there. And if you are someone, and if you are a woman with, someone who loves fast fashion, why New Me is there everywhere in your Instagram reels today, right? Why Savannah is trying to be there in every touch point, may it be the YouTube channels that you watch, or the Instagram reels that you're watching, or even while you are scrolling through stories, right? It's just there everywhere, right? So what are brands actually trying to do with this? They're doing nothing, but they are only trying to stay rent free in your mental capacity, right? If I am someone who is trying to launch a brand, I would definitely want that my brand is able to relate to you. If it is relatable to you, only then as a consumer, you will be, I will be staying rent free in your mind space. And that is why marketing exists, to be able to connect, reconnect, so that you as a consumer have the recall ability. And when you finally go into that departmental store or a mall or any online store, you do not spend a second thought in choosing the particular brand that I am trying to position, right? Why Amul is Amul today, right? I have heard in many households, and my household is one of them, wherein when my mom says ki go bring butter, she makes sure that it's Amul butter, right? I have hardly heard her saying ki bas butter lekar aana. I have always heard her saying Amul butter lekar aana, right? So what did Amul do with its topical ads? It kind of started being relatable to every festive occasion, may it be IPL, may it be WPL, may it be anything, may it be coronavirus, brands were there, and so was Amul, right? So when this was happening, what did we as consumers started, perceiving? It's all about perception as well. We started perceiving that Amul is a brand which is from, the next household. Amul is something which should be a part of my household, should be a part of my life. So when I go to the departmental store, there might be multiple options in a butter category, but then the first thing that I go and choose would always be the Amul butter. At least that is something that is my personal perception and my observation. Let me know if you have any other brand which is staying rent free for butter category, right? So now the question here comes: how do brands decide who are they talking to, how are they talking to, and what are they talking, right? And that exactly is known by the GTM strategy, the go to market strategy, right? And in go to market strategy, we will be learning a bit of segmentation, a bit of targeting, a bit of positioning, and definitely the 4Ps and the 7Ps, right? We'll understand where a 4P is being used, we'll understand where 7P is being used. But first of all, I want you to understand why everyone, in spite of being from the same category, if they are, have different expectations from the same thing, right? For example, um, I might be using a cell phone, but then my expectation from the brand that I'm going to purchase might be completely different from what you are actually expecting from it. For example, if I am out in the market to buy a pen, I might just want a black pen, right? But my friend who is very much interested in stationery and maybe in calligraphy, so to say, she might want something, something which is from a specific category, a specific ink, a specific width of the nib, or anything as such, right? So it's the same pen. The function of the pen is to write, right? But then we are different people. We have different expectations from the same thing, from the same category, in spite of having the same income stature, in spite of having the same lifestyle. Still, we might have correct pilot pen 0.5. I mean, that was once the craze. And then there was ink pen, right? The fountain pen, that was also in the craze, because we used to do calligraphy out of it, at least tried to, right? And there are much more other things, like for example, why people are loyal to Coke and some people are loyal to Pepsi. Why the Cola Wars is taking all the advantage of this particular loyalty, right? Why people choose Dove over Clinic Plus, let's say, or why people choose Zara over Westside, or maybe people choose Azord over anything like Azord over Zudio, maybe. So why this? From where does this ability to choose comes? Obviously, there's a lot about the kind of categorization that happens, the kind of collection that is there, that's different. But then, in spite of being from the same income stature, in spite of being from the same lifestyle, why, as a consumer, do we have different expectations from the same thing? That has nothing to do with any branding, but definitely to do a lot with the psychology part of it, right? We are different individuals. We have different thought processes. And that, my friends, makes the entire difference. You and me are different, but in spite of all of this, we still have some common expectations, some common similar expectations from the same branding. And that is why, even if not everyone wants the same thing, the same market has different psychology, but still segmentation is possible, but still targeting is possible, and hence positioning is possible, right? And that is what brands do. That is the GTM strategy that we are going to talk about. Now, we'll be watching a quick ad just to give it an idea about what we are trying to talk here.
Holy smokes!
I
You
hope
don't
it's
look so
audible
good.
and visible to everyone. Just give me a heads up if that's the case. All right, I'll just be playing it.
Boss?
Tell me about it. It's a real inferno down here, and I'm burnt out.
Here, try a Red Bull. It's devilishly good.
Red Bull? Oh, that tastes heavenly. Wait a minute. What's this?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Wings? Wings? I can't have wings. Not in my position.
Red Bull gives you wings.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Maybe, all right, I'll just try once again.
Holy smokes! You don't look so good, boss.
Tell me about it. It's a real inferno down here, and I'm burnt out.
Here, try a Red Bull. It's devilishly good.
Red Bull? Oh, that tastes heavenly. Wait a minute. What's this?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Wings? Wings? I can't have wings. Not in my position.
Red Bull gives you wings.
I hope that was okay. All right. There's another video ad that I want to play, and then we'll start. understanding what exactly I want to explain here?
I'm a forensic artist. Worked for the San Jose Police Department from 1995 to 2011.
I showed up to a place I'd never been, and there was a guy with a drafting board.
We couldn't see them, they couldn't see us.
Tell me about your hair.
I didn't know what he was doing, but then I could tell after several questions that he was drawing me.
Tell me about your chin.
It kind of protrudes a little bit, especially when I smile.
Your
Jaw.
What would be your most prominent feature?
Kind of have a fat, rounder face.
The older I've gotten, the more freckles I've gotten.
Forehead.
Once I get a sketch, I say thank you very much, and then they leave. I don't see them.
All I had been told before the sketch was to get friendly with this other woman, Chloe.
Today I'm going to ask you some questions about a person you met earlier, and I'm going to ask you some general questions about their face.
She was thin, so you could see her cheekbones. And her chin, it was a nice, thin chin.
She had nice eyes. They lit up when she spoke.
Cute nose.
She had blue eyes, very nice blue eyes.
So here we are. This is the sketch that you helped me create, and that's a sketch that somebody described of you.
So yeah, that's...
She looks closed off and fatter. Sadder, too. The second one looks more open, friendly, and happy.
I should be more grateful of my natural beauty. It impacts the choices and the friends that we make, the jobs we apply for, how we treat our children. It impacts everything. It couldn't be more critical to your happiness.
Do you think you're more beautiful than you say?
Yeah. Yeah.
We spend a lot of time as women analyzing and trying to fix the things that aren't quite right. And we should spend more time appreciating the things that we do like.
Can I have some responses in the chat? Whom do you think Red Bull was targeting as an audience? And whom do you think Dove was trying to communicate to? Can I have some responses? Okay. So, as you must have seen, Dove kind of tried to show that, the real beauty actually matters, that the actual confidence comes from, the real beauty, and that you are enough, right? While in the case of Red Bull, it was more in the sense that, someone who needs adrenaline, someone who needs adrenaline, someone, who loves thrill, who loves, for example, loves skydiving, racing, whichever includes the adrenaline rush, was targeted to that sort of audience, right? So now that is the question that we often ask. For example, Dove and X technically are from the same category as personal care, right? But then even if they're technically from the personal care, why does Dove feel completely different from X, right? Now, that is what the communication here matters. The brand communication here matters, wherein Dove feels soft, emotional, confidence oriented, and kind of speaks out that, okay, you are enough. But then on the other hand, X feels loud, feels playful, feels attraction oriented, and then it's kind of a message that comes out that, okay, you know what, make them notice you, right? Or maybe let's think about Red Bull and Gatorade, right? Wherein Red Bull feels like, okay, someone who loves adrenaline, someone who loves motorsports and all of that sort. And Gatorade is more like athletic, right? Endurance focused, performance driven, right? So clearly, brands are not just selling products, and this is what we have been speaking about, because they are speaking to different people. They are positioning it so that these brands can stay rent free in their target audience's mind space, right? Yes, one core agenda is that they are focusing on different genders, and it's also a way out to understand that, the easier way would be that whom are they trying to talk to, because they are obviously, catering to different emotions, different identities, different lifestyles, in fact, right? So they are taking under consideration emotions, identities, lifestyles, and the framework that helps marketers do this strategically is what we call STP. STP stands for segmentation, targeting, and positioning, right? It is one of the most important frameworks that like in marketing, because it teaches you how to think. And once this is sorted, a lot of the frameworks that follows after this in marketing kind of seems very sorted. At least you will be able to relate to it, right? Because different people have different needs and obviously have different stories. Now, that is where marketing begins, wherein you are able to segment the mass and these specific groups. You are able to choose the correct group that you want to focus on, and then own that one idea that you want to place in your consumer's mind. Now, that is what we learn from the STP framework. Now, if we have to talk what exactly is segmentation, you can think about that, it's about dividing a mass into different groups, right? For example, if you are trying to launch a coffee brand, obviously you cannot communicate, you cannot market the coffee the same way to every person in the country, right? So, because different people obviously have different expectations from the same category, it is very necessary that you group, that you break down the crowd into meaningful groups, right? Let's take coffee itself. Now, the traditional way of segmenting is we will be focusing on demographic, the psychographic, the geographic, and the behavioral aspects. But then let's take it from a very real life example. Just imagine that we are trying to segment in the basis of coffee category. Now, for some people, coffee is survival. I mean, I have friends who definitely cannot function without coffee. For some, it's luxury. For some, it's aesthetics, of course. For some, it's clear productivity. That is where we will understand wherein Starbucks will try to picture themselves. And for some, it's social identity. Okay, let's meet over coffee, let's chat over coffee. Maybe let's go for a, coffee date outside, etc. There could be multiple reasons. So if I say coffee lovers, the category is way too broad. And this is where segmentation comes in. Because for a brand to win in the market, it's very, very important that it has a clear communication. No matter where you go, communication is the key, right? Just like how it's important in relationships, similarly, it is very important to create that, to build that relation with the brand, with its consumers, right? And that is why communication is important here. Now, when the brand tries to communicate to the mass, the communication falls weak. Now, that is exactly why STP is required, because we will be focusing on specific groups that we want to communicate to as our priority. Now, let's take segmentation. We have already understood that in segmentation, we try to break a large market into smaller groups of people who behave similarly or desire similar things. I am not talking about same things because we are different, but then I'm talking about people who behave similarly people who desire similar things can be grouped together, right? But then what is the most important thing here is we are not just grouping people randomly, we are grouping them based on meaningful similarities. Now, marketers have always been segmenting them in the most common ways. For example, the demographic that we mentioned. Now, what is demographic? Under demographic, we focus on age, gender, income, education, occupation, family size, etc. Under geographic, we consider country, city, climate, region, urban versus rural, etc. For psychographic, we focus more on the lifestyle, the personality, the values, attitudes, interests, opinions, all sorts of things. Behavioral, we focus more on the purchase behavior, the brand loyalty, if the consumer is a loyalist or a switcher. These are the terms that we use in marketing. We focus on the usage rate, the benefit sort, the occasions, the readiness stage, and all of that sort, right? But then today, most common segments used in the industry till date has been the age groups, right? We try to range it as Gen Z, Gen Alpha, Millennials, Gen X, etc. And for like income groups, we try to focus on the low, middle, and high. For lifestyle segments, we focus more on, if you are health conscious, if someone is luxury seeker, someone is convenience driven, someone who is environment friendly. And for usage-based segments like heavy users, light users, occasional users, right? And for benefit segments, we often focus on the value seekers. Some seek premiumness, some seek quality, etc. Now, one of the most important part here is segmenting, because a better segmenting will lead to better targeting, and it will lead to stronger positioning, and that itself will lead to happier customers, right? Now, this is not a step on step process, but it has its impact throughout. So it's more like a loop system that if you have done your segmentation correct, there's a high chance that you're doing your targeting correct. And then there's a high chance that you're doing your positioning correct. But if you go wrong in any of this step, your brand might just become the next flop, right? So every step here, right from segmentation to positioning, every step is very, very important if you want to communicate better with your consumers. Right? Now, I would really, really love if you could, help me build segments together. For example, if we are taking coffee as the category, we of course can, divide multiple segments here. I will just be running you through this example so that it becomes very easy for you to understand what exactly segmentation means. So MBA students, of course, could be one category wherein chai ki tapri pe milna bhai category works. But then there's also a group of people who love coffee because they feel they cannot function without coffee, right? Because what do they exactly want? Now, it's very important while you are doing the segmentation part, it's very important to also note down the behavioral aspect of these segments, right? For example, the segment with sleepy MBA students, what do they exactly want from their coffee is definitely caffeine, affordability because abhi tak stipend and paycheck nahi mil raha hai. Definitely late night productivity. I don't know if it's an illusion or it's actually a functional trait. Survival during submissions, mental alertness, and all of that sort, right? For someone who is seeking luxury cafe crowd, definitely wants Instagram worthy spaces. So anything aesthetic works for them. For gym consumers, I think they believe more on the low sugar is what they are trying to, come up with coffee. For corporate professionals, it definitely has to be speed and convenience. So coffee on the go works really well for them. And there could be, there could be more segments, right? So this is the time wherein we try to figure out all the groups that can be possible here, right? It could be parents who want safe and trusted options. It could be health conscious consumers. It could be travelers and commuters. It could be the couples or the social crowd. It could be gamers, in fact, because night owls, right? It could be sustainability focused Gen Z. It could be wellness consumers. What my point here is that there could be multiple segments. So it's very important that you segment all of it, right? You segment the core part of it, because then it becomes very easy and very convenient for us to then go to the next category, next step, which is targeting, wherein we'll be focused in one or two of these particular segments that we have listed down here, right? One thing that we need to understand here, that the product category might be same, but because the psychology is different, we need to consider different motivations, different identities, different values, different emotions, different lifestyles, and that is segmentation, my friends, right? One of the most leading example today have been Labubu. I mean, nobody really needed Labubu, right? Until one good night, it became the craze, the frenzy, right? So from the outside, they all look like Labubu buyers. But if you think deeply, if you think psychologically, the motivations were completely different. Some bought it because it was cute. Some bought it because, okay, it's different. We all have beauty dolls, but let's go for the ugly dolls. Some went for the aesthetic identity, some went for scarcity, some went for the hype marketing that was created around it, and some went just for the emotional attachment, right? So, two people can be the exact same age and income level that I mentioned earlier, but emotionally can behave completely different as consumers. And as marketers, this segmentation tells us where can we group these different expectations and different identities, right? So the next step moving ahead is targeting. Now, this is the most crucial part. This is the point where your brand can either make in the market or simply break in the market, because this is the point where we do not really reject any group, but we tend to focus. This is the time wherein we prioritize the segments, right? So the moment a brand kind of tries to speak to its focus consumer segment, that is when the brand starts communicating better, and that is when it starts staying rent free in the consumer's mindset, right? So of all the, so let's continue with the example of the coffee branding. So we kind of figured out MBA students, luxury cafe crowd, creators, wellness consumers, gym consumers, professionals, etc. Now if you take Starbucks as an example, where do they exactly wanted to focus, right? They focused on urban professionals, they focused on aspirational consumers, they focused on lifestyle oriented Gen Z, they focused on creators and freelancers, and they definitely focused on experience seekers, because that it was not just about chasing every customer, but it was about choosing the right customer. And you cannot do it unless you are very clear about what values does your brand stand for, about what message does your brand want to communicate. So it is very important, right? So if you want to follow a template, we can always understand how do brands even choose a target segment. So first step would be, to understand if the segment need what the brand has to offer, if the segment is large enough to be profitable, if the segment can afford what we are trying to price the product for, if in fact they have the willingness to pay for it, if they have the purchasing power for it, right? The fourth step is if we can reach them effectively. Obviously, if someone is in the most rural part, has the spending capacity, but if it's not accessible, if the cost to supply itself is so high, we that particular segment cannot be our target segment, right? So we need to focus on the accessibility part, that if we can reach them effectively, if there are platforms which can influence them, if whatever media we use, even they are using it, or maybe vice versa, whatever media they are using it, we are able to use that, right? And if the fifth step is if the segment matches the brand identity, right? If it aligns with the brand image, and if both of them can fulfill the expectations, as in if the brand can serve them authentically, right? Because on the longer run, you can attract all sorts of consumer in the first awareness phase of your branding, but then for the longer run, if you have to win in the market share, you will have to prove right on the sense that you are able to serve your consumers authentically, right? And that is what Starbucks did, right? Starbucks did not focus on price sensitive quick coffee consumers. Rather, they focused on the aspirational consumers, the urban professionals who can both afford and had the need for the ambience that they were offering, right? So there's a targeting template on your screen on the bottom left. You can use it whenever you have to go forward with the GTM strategy. I have been using it and it has been working for me. I'm sure it will definitely help you as well, right? So, first, what we do is, of course, the segmentation part, wherein we list all possible segments because this is the brainstorming part. Let's not reject anything. Just because we think it's not relevant, let's not reject it yet. Let's keep it in the hindsight because you never know. You might just have something very creative out of it in your promotional stunts, right? So for now, let's just be unbiased and let's just list down all the possible segments. Yeah. Second step, let's understand each segment. When I was talking about segmentation, I asked you to take notes of the consumer behavior, the kind of psychological behavior that these particular segments have, right? What might be their expectations from the particular category? We need to understand each segment. Why? Because this will help us with the third step, which is evaluate each segment. Because then this is the time wherein we'll be able to decide upon the market size, the growth potential, the ease of reach, the profitability part, and of course the competition, right? The fourth is now the most crucial one. This is the time wherein we prioritize. All our lives, we have been learning about how to prioritize important stuffs over distractions. But I think this is the time wherein we learn how to prioritize among everything that is important, but then we choose what is the most important for us, right? Because which segment gives us the most strongest strategic advantage should be our target audience, right? And then the fifth step, not necessary, it's an optional step, but then it's always good to have a primary segment and a secondary segment as your target audience because one could be your core target and the other could be your supporting target. For example, Ariel, detergent in itself is the core category which kind of targets women. But then let's not forget that today we are talking about sharing the load, and definitely the secondary target segment should be men, right? So this is what targeting really talks about. Targeting talks about if your brand is attractive to this particular uh if this particular segment is attractive towards whatever we are delivering, if it's accessible to this particular segment, if it's aligning, right, whatever the brand is trying to communicate versus whatever the values these particular consumer segment have, if it's aligning, right? So that is very, very important. So the strongest brands are not loved by everyone, but they're definitely deeply loved by the right people and they stay loyal. Now, that is why we have Coke loyalists in one hand, and on the other hand, we have the Pepsi loyalists, right? I'll not go to the IPL part of it. Now, moving on to the third step, which is positioning. Now, positioning is owning one idea, and this is where marketing becomes a psychological warfare, right? Because this particular step teaches you how do you stay rent free in your consumer mindset, right? It talks about how do you own that mental availability, how do you own that mental space, how Amul became the first choice in the butter category, how Coke is known by everyone, it has penetrated towards the rural segment as well, how Maggie is the most quick comfort nostalgia option whenever we think about it, how Red Bull has become the option for the ones who seek thrill and extreme energy, how Starbucks has become one of the most crucial part of the urban lifestyle experience, and how Apple talks about premium simplicity, right? So this is nothing but what positioning made you do. So positioning is not what the company says about itself, but it's about what you instantly associate with the brand. So whenever you think about, let's say, nostalgia, if you're thinking about Maggie, Maggie did its job right. If you're thinking about, let's say, 10-minute delivery, if you thought about Blinkit, I think Blinkit did its job right, right? If you're thinking about sports and if you're thinking about Nike and Puma, they did their job right. If you're thinking about achievement and if you're thinking about Nike straight away, Nike did its job right. So it's about the idea that the particular brand has owned in its consumers' mind space. And that is also why targeting was the most crucial step, because if you have the right set of target audience, it kind of then starts aligning to what you are trying to position or what you're trying to communicate further in terms of psychological and emotional aspects, right? So consumers today are overloaded every single day in every single touch point, right? I have multiple options if I simply want to order food. I have Zomato, I have Swiggy, I have EatShare, I have Eat Club, and all of those things, right? I have thousands of brands if I want to, choose a sunscreen. I have thousands of messages coming up if I want to, go forward and choose, let's say, a program for myself wherein I want to upskill myself. So there are thousands of choices and multiple options, multiple different varied options kind of creates confusion. And that is the human tendency, right? So positioning kind of helps us become the mental shortcut. Stay rent free in your consumer's mindset, have that recall ability in your consumer's mindset that they are far away from the confusion whenever think about your category, right? So it's not just about being better, it's also about being different in a way consumers care about, right? So how do brands even decide positioning? Now, they focus on what do the consumer, especially the target audience, really care about. For example, the emotional needs, the functional needs, the aspirations. The second step is what can, you know, we realistically own. For example, what can we consistently deliver? Like again I said, it's about the longer race and it's a marathon and it's just not a sprint, right? So what makes the brand distinct from competitors? What, how can we make it easily understandable to the consumers, make it stick around in every touch point that they have, and how can we consistently reinforce in terms of packaging, in terms of ad, in terms of stress, and all of that sort, right? So one of the mental shortcut that all of us used while our interviews and all of that sort, wherever STP was required, we use this positioning template, right? We use this positioning template wherein you can take a screenshot if you want, or you can save the video for later on, wherein we talk about for the target audience, the one that we did in the targeting stage, if you remember, who wants the need and the desire that we try to decode, the brand and the product that we are delivering is the category or the frame of reference that we want to stick by. That provides the key emotional or functional benefit that we are convinced that we will consistently deliver because of the reason that whatever beliefs or the proofs that are there. So all you have to do is fill in the blanks with this particular template and you will have your positioning statement ready for any GTM cases that you will, in the future try to decode, right? Now, for example, let's take Starbucks for the example and let's try to, kind of let's try to fit in Starbucks into the template that we have. So for the target audience, for Starbucks, the target audience was urban professionals and aspirational consumers who want to dash. We will fill in with the need and desire. So these people, this segment wanted a premium cafe experience, who want a premium cafe experience. the brand and the product here is Starbucks, is what is the category? The lifestyle cafe brand that provides the key emotional or functional benefit that Starbucks was trying to provide was ambience, personalization with the names written on the cups, and emotional comfort through its cafe culture and experience driven environment, right? So, this particular thing becomes your positioning statement, which you can very strategically use in your GTM strategy cases, right? So, similarly for Nike, it becomes for ambitious individuals who want to push their limits. Nike is the performance sports brand that inspires achievement and discipline through athlete driven storytelling and innovation. Easy, right? So when you practice around, multiple GTM cases, this will come very handy. It did for me, it did for all my batchmates. I'm sure it will do it for you as well, right? And I think in the Launchpad itself, we tried, solving GTM cases, and we are determined to solve multiple around, so that by the end the program kind of gets over and you finally go into the market doing all of these things for the interview practices. This will come very handy, and trust me, it will come in the span of minutes, because that is all you're going to get. You're going to get around 5 to 6 minutes for prep for your GTM cases, and then you'll have to barge into the group discussion that will be followed by, right? So you definitely will not have time to think everything in detail, but this is what we try to ease things up here, wherein we try to figure out whatever helped us, we try to convey the same for you, because I think what worked for us definitely will work for you, and we learn from our own mistakes, so you better learn from our mistakes than committing your own lot. Just a bad joke, but yeah. Now, the next part here is the 4Ps. Now we are done with the STP portion of it. Now we will be following the 4Ps part. Let me know if anybody knows what 4P means. Do you know what 4P stands for? Can I have a heads up here? Do you know what 4P stands for? I think some of you already saw it in the deck slide, but then yeah. No? Okay. So 4P here is the next step after STP, which eventually stands for product, price, place, and promotion. Now, earlier I mentioned about 4Ps and 7Ps. Please do not get confused. 4Ps is used when we are talking about the product category. 7Ps is used when we talk about the service category. But for now, we will be focusing only on the product category. So this is why marketer use the marketing mix, which we call the famous 4Ps. Now, these are basically the tools marketers use to bring positioning to life, right? So you can say that it's the kind of, so STP is like you planning, but then 4Ps is the execution part of it, right? So you can say that STP is the brain behind it, but then 4Ps help you get into the market, get into the ground, and then, work on that, right? Now, when we talk about 4Ps, the first thing that comes is product, right? So people think product as equal to object, and marketers think much more broadly. So when we talk about product, we talk about design, we talk about packaging, we talk about experience, we talk about quality, we talk about all the features, the branding, the service, the emotional value, everything. Because we understand that consumers just don't buy the products, they buy bundles of value that comes with this particular product, right? So Starbucks product is not coffee alone, but it's ambience, music, smell, personalization, comfort, the experience, right? Now you would say, okay, why does packaging matter? Now you ask yourself, when you get a 10 rupees coffee from any random vending machine, and then you get Starbucks coffee with that personalized cup of yours, what do you think? What makes you more valuable? The one which was a 10 rupee coffee, which obviously is serving the functional aspect of it, but which one do you feel, more proud to have? Like, just what makes you feel better in terms of personalization or in terms of ambience? I'm sure it's Starbucks, right? Because that is how it's been positioned. That is the packaging of it. Now, for example, marigold biscuit packaging versus dark fantasy biscuit packaging, right? It instantly changes the premiumness of the products, right? So luxury brands often sell perception through product details, but I think packaging really, really matters, because packaging, it's like the appearance, right? The first impression that comes. We all talk about the appearances. That is why we dress up. That is why we have different outfits for different occasions. But this is what packaging does to your product. It gives you the first impression. It gives consumers the first experience. The first interaction that a consumer has with your product is the packaging itself, right? Even before they try out the product. I mean, how many of you have bought cookies just because the packaging looked very aesthetic? Or maybe how many of you have bought stationery items just because it looked very, very aesthetic? And in fact, even perfume brands, they work a lot on the packaging because that is what sells up, right? Yes, sir. So that is what it is about, right? So similarly, pricing step towards, wherein if it's for the mass or for the luxury segment, right? And then the third is place. It's about the distribution channels. It's about the places where your product will be placed, because it definitely matters where your target consumers are more available and frequently visit the stores. So that is when you can decide where do you actually want to place your products. Because if your target audience is someone who is more of an online buyer, but then if you are not available on the online platforms, doesn't really make sense. It's not aligning, right? Your No matter how good your positioning is, but if you do not give access to purchase to your consumers, your sales will never get converted, right? So it's very important to understand the alignment of the distribution channels, specifically for the target audience that you are kind of focusing on, and then you can decide on where and how consumers access the brand, right? And then lastly, it's the promotion, of course. It's about different campaigns, the ads and influences to what you exactly thought marketing was till now. But then this is what it does, the social media, wherein promotion is much deeper. Actually, it just gives you everything. It gives you different types of marketing. It gives you different types of advertisements, the influencers, the everything that you can think about. In fact, promotion is what most people think marketing really, really is. I'm sure most of you exactly thought that ads and billboards and all of that is the core marketing, but no, marketing is exactly an ocean, all right? And that is what it is. So this was just a few drops of it, I would say. But if you want to know more about it, try join us in the Launchpad program, wherein we talk in detail about all the practical brand examples that we can use, the modern examples that we use, the ongoing trends that are going on, so that we can understand where the market, where the consumers are kind of bending towards, so that as a marketer, when you finally step into the market, we will be aware about what works the best, because marketing is evolving, because consumers like you and me are evolving from time and again. So yeah, that is it from my side, and see you soon. If you really had anything to take out of this session, let me know in the comment section if there was anything fruitful from this session. Yeah. And if you want to know more about marketing, you can always join us for the Launchpad program. I'll take your leave now. Thank you.